So, welcome to Princess Yachiyo. Today's
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Today's guest is like the other days, Miss Chelsea. Thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I have a lot of lights in my apartment.
Right. The Christmas.
I'm ready. It's getting cold outside.
Right. It's really cold.
Yes, I know you're going to hibernate soon. You told me.
Yeah.
I definitely understand.
So today's topic is a romance. In Edo era, the samurai woman didn't have a freedom of romance. The family was more important than personal issues. And on the other hand, the public could have the freedom of romance. And since you have lived in Japan, I'm curious if you find any cultural difference regarding the romance between the Japan and other countries that you have lived, like things you have heard or things you have saw.
Let me think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say in general, a lot of Asian cultures, maybe Japan included, value the family ideals a lot more. Maybe it's coming from Confucianism, like you were talking about, which is quite different from a lot of Western societies, especially in the United States, where everyone's very individualistic. You know, a lot of young people these days think I'm going to do it my way. You know, I don't care what you think. This is my life. I have the right to make my decisions, especially concerning love and romance and things like that. I think Japan also has adopted a lot of Western culture as well. And most young people these days in Japan as well, all their marriages or relationships are based on romantic feelings, on love. Maybe very rich families, I don't know, or politicians, you know, families in the government, maybe they will make a political marriage or strategical marriage. Again, I think this is the same all over the world. I think that's the same even in Western culture. I am definitely not in that class. You know, my family was more of a middle class. I always felt free to choose the person I wanted to be with. I never felt any pressure from my family to choose a certain kind of person. I mean, I've been in relationships with, of course, with Americans, with foreigners, with Japanese people as well. And I never got any really negative feedback from my family. Maybe there was a little bit of resistance I felt in Japan when I was in a relationship with a Japanese guy. And I think the family felt like, can she really understand our culture? Can she really be a good partner for him? Because I feel like sometimes in Japanese culture, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's maybe certain expectation for a housewife or a wife in general. And maybe they feel, or they're afraid that the foreigner, the Western girl, is a little bit too independent and free and I don't know, this kind of thing. But again, we didn't discuss this too openly, but it's just kind of a feeling that I got.
True. I think this culture is a bit more in when you go to local area than just staying in Tokyo or Osaka, where it's more like a, let's say, multinational than local. But still, I also notice like there's a difference between us. Maybe more the family comes. Still, it's same as before, but maybe somehow or some way, or maybe it's personal, I'm not sure, but I think there's a certain level of things like that as well. Yeah,
like a certain stereotype or certain idea that people have.
Yeah. Like a wife should, I mean, when you marry, wife should do this, or like a husband should be like this, or that kind of.
Yes. And, I know I have a lot of friends who ended up marrying Japanese people, and unfortunately, some of them ended up getting a divorce because I think they failed to have this kind of understanding about the roles of a husband and wife. And I think in Japan, it's a little bit more specific, the role that the husband and the wife should take. And Western culture, it's a little bit more shared. I think the duties, the house duties, both. It's general that both of us will work, both of us will share the housework, the cooking, raising the children. Everything like that is more shared. So I know this has sometimes can be a problem.
True, right. One thing that I want to know, I'm not sure if it's curious, if it's true or not, and it's something really light, but it's just a thing I've heard. Still, I've heard in US or Canada, when people are going out, they don't have like a specific, what we call kokohaku, like confession, like telling please let's go out. You have some. Like I don't know. I want to know about it.
Confession, like a love confession, you would say. And this is such an interesting part of Japanese culture.
Yeah.
And since I do a lot of translation of manga and things like that, if it's a romantic manga, there's always the confession. And I'm always thinking, how do I translate this naturally? Because we don't really have this culture of kokohaku, So I'm always saying, I admitted my feelings to him. I confessed my feelings to him. But you're absolutely right. We just, I think we tend to just go along with the flow a little bit more.
Okay.
And also maybe express the way we feel a little bit more naturally.
That's true. We don't say a lot of
yeah. Honestly, that was one of the problems I had in some of my relationships with Japanese people, is that I found a lot of Japanese guys tend to really be reserved about expressing their emotions. And I'm used to being more open about how I feel and sharing how I feel more. And so I was feeling really lost sometimes. It's just there's a wall,
Right.
I'm wondering how do Japanese people handle this situation? Frustration. And I think that's where the culture of this kokohaku confession comes from. Is that there's this really, you have to make such an effort to break through that wall. Maybe it's pressure from society, or maybe it's just this fear of expressing yourself. And I think that is a very real thing in Japan, especially with young people.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a big difference. And I mean, it depends on, of course, the country. If you were to go to, say, South America, a lot of maybe Brazil or Mexico, even where my fiance is from in Uruguay, people are really open with expressing their feelings. They're very physical, they're very affectionate. But then I know some like Northern European countries, for example, they're also very reserved and very shy. So it's not only Japan where people have a problem expressing their.
I see. I didn't know.
Yeah. Also depends on the person. That's a really interesting question. I think that's such a fascinating aspect of Japanese culture. Yeah.
for me, I was puzzled for sometimes because for us, if you don't confess, then even if you're going, let's say going out with a boy and girl, but without the confess, it's just your friends. So like so and maybe
like very clearly.
Yeah. And maybe when I was watching TV programs or dramas, like when people are going out for dinner for a couple of times, then they were like going out and like, what this happened? Since this
We're
happened.
dating now, right? Like, yeah, so I think a lot of misunderstandings can happen if between a Japanese person and a foreigner.
That's true.
Because the foreigner will think like, okay, we went on a few dates, so we're now. I mean, I like you.
True.
I mean, you're still with me, right? So, but then on the other side, on the Japanese person's side, they haven't heard the confession or they haven't made the confession. They don't know, like, is this a relationship or not? I don't know.
That's funny.
It's really funny. It's God. I mean, I can imagine being in that position. It's quite frustrating, but objectively, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, true. Maybe that's all for today. And thank you very much.
Okay.
See you.
See you. Bye.